I'd love to help you get vulnerable. Let's get naked.
Hey everyone, I'm Ann. Welcome to the Let's Get Naked podcast, where we dive deep into vulnerability. In this space, we'll explore what triggers us, uncover the patterns holding us back, and discover how to take charge of our own growth. If you're ready to dig in, be vulnerable, and face the tough stuff, then buckle up. It's time to get naked. Childhood trauma can leave deep, lasting scars that profoundly impact a person through their life. Experiences of abuse, neglect, or growing up in a volatile environment can hinder emotional development and coping skills, making it difficult to form healthy relationships or make positive life choices. Those who carry this unresolved pain may turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms like drug and alcohol abuse, as well as criminal activity to numb their emotional wounds and escape the past. The lack of a stable, supportive foundation during childhood often leads to cycles of criminal behavior and incarceration, leaving individuals to face a lifetime of obstacles in their journey to healing and self-empowerment. However, a life defined by addiction, crime, and imprisonment is not without hope. For those who rise from these struggles, it becomes a powerful story of resilience and transformation. Overcoming such hardship offers not just personal healing, but the chance to inspire others caught in similar cycles of despair. The journey from darkness to light proves that, no matter how difficult life may seem, redemption is possible. When someone who has endured the depths of addiction and incarceration turns their life around, their story becomes a beacon of hope. It shows others that it's never too late to rewrite their narrative. This kind of transformation is meaningful. It ignites change, motivates others to take control of their futures, and fosters a sense of community and support for those still struggling. Today, we're stripping it all off with Peter Meyerhoff, aka Chappie. Peter is the author of the book Against All Odds, that tells his story of his life with addiction, crime, imprisonment, and ultimate success. He has a podcast that is on 1 million prison tablets throughout the country, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the ingredients that go into the recipe that makes up Peter. So welcome to the show, Peter.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely. You. So I'd like to just kind of start with a little bit of what your childhood looked like. As the listeners know, we kind of usually start there because a lot of people who think like, oh, that really doesn't what shaped me. I believe that's everything that shaped you.
I completely agree.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about what your family life looked like growing up and siblings, parents, if they were.
Yeah, so my childhood was great in the beginning. Like, grew up on a cul-de-sac. Every house had kids except one house. I never touched a video game my entire life. I was in the streets playing sports, no matter what it was, basketball, football, baseball in the streets. My parents split when I was, I think, 10, and that's when it got, went kind of downhill. And I didn't notice it before, and I'm serious. I've watched a few of your clips, and I've been just digging deep on trying to find out why I'm the way I am now, and
I love it.
I don't have any memories of my childhood really though, which is kind of weird. So I'm for sure that I blocked a lot of it out because there was a bunch of bad stuff. Like when my parents split, I remember there was one big fight in the kitchen, and I told my mom this a few months ago. I was like, all I remember is that one big fight, and then 2 days later, you guys said that you were breaking up, and she was like, "That's all you remember?" Shock, So I was like, "There's for sure a bunch of bad stuff I don't remember." All I remember is we had a volleyball pool, so my dad and his brothers would play volleyball all weekend, and they'd make crushed up ice orange juice, vodka drinks, and just get hammered on the weekends. But I thought that was normal. It was just drinking. I didn't know, Mm-hmm. My dad smoked cigarettes in front of me, so of course I smoked cigarettes 15 years old, and it's now that I have 2 sons, it's every single thing I do, my son mimics, and that's why I've been digging harder to make sure I don't screw this up for my son. I'm probably cried 10 times today.
That's okay. That's what we're here for.
But I went to go live with my mom when my parents split, and she was, a single mother. We had a studio apartment, just me, her, and my brother. I shared a bed with my mom. Mm-hmm. She was a flight attendant, so she was gone 4 or 5 nights a week. So, if I was 12, 13 years old, if I wanted to wake up and go to school, I woke up and went to school. And if I wanted to wake up at noon and go to school half the day, that's what I did.
Right.
And then 15 years old is when kind of everything changed in my life. My best friend asked me to kind of take one for the team. And I just recently started talking about this because, I mean, the words I hate, but there's so many people that fell victim to the same stuff, so it is what it is. I need to talk about it. And so my mom's house turned into the party house. She was a flight attendant, so instantly when I was a freshman, I was the cool kid because I had an open house all weekend. I was already the popular kid, and I was in a movie as a kid. I had a modeling agent. Childhood was pretty easy to me. Mm-hmm. And my buddy asked me, he wants to lose his virginity and hook up with a girl, and he asked me to like kind of take one for the team. They were two best friends. We were two best friends. My mom was out of town all weekend. I was like, yeah, perfect. So we weren't driving. We were 15 years old. Her older brother sneaks them out of her bedroom window, drops the two girls off at my mom's house, me and my best friend with a bottle of Jack Daniels and those two girls. That Friday night, I lose my virginity. They come back. He picks them up like 4:30 in the morning or something, sneak back in the bedroom window. We do the exact same thing Saturday night. Come back, we polish off now the second bottle of Jack Daniels. To this day, I don't know how it happened, but she said I had sex while she was sleeping. And that next day at school, I went from being the most popular kid in school to they had to lock down the school and call my parents and kind of told my parents, like, we don't even know what to do, but your son's not safe here. Like, for sure, find another school at bare minimum.
Hold on a second. She was sleeping? You were, I missed something there. Like,
she said I had sex while she was sleeping.
Okay, so she basically accused
Said I
you
raped
of
her.
raped. Okay,
Yeah.
So I just want to make certain that we use all the words. So
Okay, yeah, and I know, and I hate even saying that word.
I know,
yeah.
but that's
you're right.
and I appreciate that, but as a woman sitting across from you on the couch, we're going to call that rape. And I know, and here's the whole thing. We're going to have a really fun conversation about this because there's a lot of stuff that happened to me when I was younger that I made a lot of excuses for because I drank a lot and it was, oh, I'm passed out, so what does that count for and whatever, right? So I don't see you as the villain in that story or in any story, just so you know, right? But I do want to like have the raw conversations about it because that's powerful shit. When you and I can sit on this couch and say rape and say like, fuck, I don't even remember because of this and that and whatever.
Yeah.
Let's have those conversations because that to me is where we're going to change the narrative in our future.
I love it.
So okay, so then the
She
girl
said
went and said
yeah.
that she raped you and then now the school's not safe and all of the things. Okay, I'm so sorry. Now please keep going.
No, you're good. And then to this day, I don't know how my parents just let me drop out of school. Like, I don't understand that. Like, and it makes me so mad, you know, like.
That was their go-to of like, okay, this problem happened and now you just don't go to school. Okay, and we're not going to go find another school for you. You just don't go to school.
And my wife, even she, what's crazy is like, she grew up from a single mother, but like Mormon, like all three of their kids. Her mother's a saint, man. Like, got kicked out of. I have a little ADD, so if I get off kilter, just bring me back. But like her. And I say this to show what's possible because a lot of single mothers think they can't do something or they don't have it good.
Right.
Her mom was adopted and raised in a Mormon family, got pregnant at 17 years in high school. Her parents literally kicked her out and put her on the streets.
You're talking about your wife?
My wife's mother.
Oh, your wife's mother. Okay.
So they put her on the streets at 18 years old. And she raised 3 kids. All 3 kids had full ride scholarships academically. They all got a full ride to play sports. My wife's All-American volleyball player.
Right.
And not only that, but they all got a full ride scholarship to play an instrument. My wife had a scholarship to play the flute.
Love it.
And they did their little Bible studies at 5:30 in the morning every morning. The mom was broken. I asked them, like, because I see how expensive kids are. I'm like, how did you pay your bills, like being legit serious? And she was like, I would just pray at the church every week, and then somehow someone would pay my bills, and my bills would get paid. And I was like, man, you literally did that all by yourself, you know? Like, they're like, I've never even seen a family that's my family now, you know? Like, I grew up in the shittiest drunk loser alcoholic family, and like I thought about this a lot. I was gonna hold back saying shit, but I don't care anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like fuck my family if they're not gonna fix themselves, you know? Like, and I don't think because people have the same blood as you that they can say that they're still your family. They don't act like family members should act, you know? And so yeah, I dropped out of school and started hanging out with drug addicts. You know, I was an athlete, you know, like I was the last person to smoke weed. Thought I was gonna have my pick of what sport I want to go pro at, like. And I go start hanging out with this new crowd, and the first weekend I get introduced to crystal meth. I smoked crack, did ecstasy, and I'm not joking. I've never even, let alone seen these drugs, never even seen a person on these drugs before. Right. And they told me crystal meth is like a fun party drug. Just try it, you'll love it. And at this point, everybody's doing it here. I don't give a shit about the world right now. Like, there's no chance I believe in God or anything. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. I don't not do meth until I go in treatment at like 15 or 16 years old. I'm in rehab already at 15, 16 years old. Of course, I'm a smooth talker, so I talk my parents into take me out early because I got this shit figured out now. Yeah. Do cocaine on my getting out of rehab party release thing, you know, and just stay on the streets. You know, my mom was working 4 or 5 days a week, and when she was home, it was a nightmare raising me after that, you know.
So I feel the anger when you talk about the difference between how your wife was raised and how you were raised, right?
Because I didn't realize it until recently.
Right. But God, you're making my heart so happy. I can't tell you. You saying I'm getting curious about myself, right? Like, whatever it is that sparks that in you, that's where the fucking awesome sauce is. Do you know what I mean? The magic lives on the other side of that, because I was the same, where it was like I couldn't remember childhood memories. I couldn't remember this. I couldn't remember that, because our minds are amazing tools, and they will block that shit out and they will protect you. Yeah. But I can feel that anger behind your voice of like, I had this same situation, but so did she, and look how great that worked out for her. Why was my experience so much garbage, right?
Literally.
And it is, but I will say, like, get curious about that too, because you'll be able to go back and look and realize you wouldn't be who you are right now if you didn't have all of those experiences. So for me, I'm able to kind of, after I've done a lot of the work associated with that, say, I'm grateful for the fucking garbage that went into making me who I am, because I am scrappy AF, right? Like, I am gritty, I am the hardest working person, like all of these things that I wouldn't have been had I not gone through all of this shit, right? Yeah. So, but I understand where you're coming from. It's interesting because I have older children, and there's some of that, like when you say, okay, so I did all of that because it was like, well, fuck it, I'm here, right? And then you get down this path where it's like, holy shit, the train has left the station. There's no way you're going back, right? You went from all of this promise and all of these things to really one event was the why in your road where it just, you're going right or it could have gone left. How fucking crazy is that, right?
And it's embarrassing to say, that's all I did from the time I was 15 till I was 18 years old, was a petty thief. Like, just ripping people off, stealing shit, forging checks, just doing dumb drug addict loser shit.
Yeah, doing
whatever it took to get drugs and drug money.
Okay.
But then it's like you're doing that, you know you're going to get locked up, and it's just a matter of if and when, and hopefully it's nothing crazy. And what sent me to prison actually was my old best friend, the one that was there that night that happened, who, of course, afterwards, and this is why I say, like, your friends are not your friends 99.9% of the time.
Yeah.
Like, if you got 20 friends, there's probably one or two that are actually real good friends, and you could fucking count on if you needed something, you know? Like, this was my best friend. We spent every day together after school, every single day. He knew what happened. Yeah. And what do I say when I was like, yo, you got to say, like, what happened? Right. I'm not getting involved in that shit is what he told me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, my God. So 4 years later, we ended up robbing his house. That's what I went to prison for.
I want to back up for just a quick second. So in that instance with that girl, did you remember, or were you like blackout drunk and you don't even know what happened?
Man, this is the first time I'm ever going to say this publicly. I'm not even joking. I didn't even tell the police that because I didn't know what sex was like. And like she had me go down. I'm not to be too vulgar, but she had and she was like, and like she was moaning at one point. She didn't say anything, and I stopped because we were blacked out drunk. And like I thought like she was asleep or something. And I'm not even joking. I stopped, and she woke up and told me to keep going again. And this was the second time like we've started having sex.
Right, you
like
had sex the day before.
We were both blacked out drunk with 15-year-old kids. That was it, you know. And like so like that was it. I don't even know.
You don't have a big memory.
Yeah, I don't have a memory of it other than that. That's it.
Was there ever conversation with her after the fact, like, or no, this blew up at school and then it was, I don't even see that whole situation?
Not a word about it at all. And you know what's crazy? Like through social media, a few people have sent me stuff lately because who do you think's sober in AA now? Yeah. Her. Yeah. So, and I found out afterwards that she did the same thing to another friend. Well,
she's not the villain in your story though. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would encourage you to get curious about why that, because you're coming from a defensive place in that situation because you think she ruined your life. Right.
Yeah,
and I totally understand that, but I would encourage you to get curious about that because she didn't, right? Lots of choices got you to where that was and when that happened. But also you're not the villain either. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So like really being able to understand that was an experience that happened, but don't like be the victim in her story, right? That she fucked everything up because there's no power in that either, right? Like, so really.
I was looking for this to be kind of therapy.
It was, so welcome.
Too. That's what I was really looking for. I was like, I need a therapy session anyways this week.
Yeah, and I want to do it in public because fucking why not? That's the cool thing to do nowadays.
And I want a therapist from a non-licensed therapist
too. I know, exactly, right? Well, it's great because you can actually we're vibing right now, right? Like I'm coming from a great place when I say this. And I can say this from the other side of the couch where it's like, I was that girl. And I still don't hold that guy in that villain role because same thing, like, when you're teenagers and everybody's fucking drinking and whatever, this is not a violent rape, right? This is a totally different situation. So again, I'm not trying to justify anything and everybody can have their own story and their own everything, but to me, it's a different situation of, yes, I still consider that rape if I'm blacked out drunk, but also I got myself blacked out drunk. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? In a situation, and that doesn't justify other people's behavior or whatever, but also you have to be able to kind of forgive yourself from that situation and also not hold ill will to her, not for her, but for you, right? Because you don't want to carry that into your relationship with your wife, your relationship with your kiddos, right? And that just ends up being anger and fuel for that underneath, You don't need it.
Sure.
You're better than that. You understand, you understand the game bigger than that. It doesn't have to be something that you carry around anymore.
Thank you.
You can forgive yourself for that. You can forgive her for that, and that just be part of your story instead of something that like really is emotionally charged for you, which it still is. And I don't blame you, right? I mean, that's part of fixing your shit, right? Is saying I don't want to be chained to this memory or to this thing that's like, fuck, I can't believe this happened, or even my wife had a single mom and she turned out and she had all of these loving things. I had a single mom, she was MIA. Look at all this shit. Yeah. Even just doing that comparison, it fuels anger for you of like, why did I have this? Why did it not turn out well for me? But when you realize your story has all of the ingredients in it that it does for a reason, and that you're amazing, Peter, who you are sitting right here on this couch, and that you wouldn't be here without all of those things that went into making you who you are, and just really showing gratitude for everything that went into making you who you are, even all the tough shit, right? You've made it through 100% of your tough days.
It's funny you say that because I'm like, that's what I say. I'm at peace with everything, and I'm grateful for every single thing in my life except for her, and I'm just hate her. And so like you saying that, I need to do some. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that because like that's one thing like I've told my wife that forever I'll hate her and be angry and like I'm never gonna get over that, like it is what it is, but I know I need to, especially for my sons. I just got to be better and do better no matter what, When you realize that you take it in and you carry it down to your kiddos, it makes the game a little bit different. It took a year to realize that. When you see like my son does every single thing that I do, it's like, and then I think, how did my dad do that shit in front of me? Like it baffles me. But like the only thing that gives them kind of a little bit of like leeway is the fact that they don't have the internet. They don't have your podcast clips that I can come across to teach them, like I learned like how to be an adult and raise my kids and stuff from, I'm serious, Instagram and people like you and shit like that. And my wife, like, I don't, my Instagram's not bullshit like other people, and it's not like the fake stuff. Like it's all about like parenting stuff and like cool, like real stuff that you can learn. And I try and follow doctors and like real smart people and learn shit because I didn't, I was in prison my life and like all the development years, like I didn't know shit. Like everything I learned out here, I had to like either learn on the fly and figure it out or Google shit.
Right.
You know, or call a friend and ask them, what the hell is this? Because I have never heard about this before, Well,
it's awesome, though, that you're open to that. It's awesome that you're willing to be curious and to look at that because I guarantee you, when you get to the point of being able to forgive that girl, right, and not let her be the villain in your story anymore, right? She was just a small little blip in there. When you're able to do that and really be at peace with it, it's a game changer. And then you realize that you're taking in to being a parent and to being a husband something that's clean energy and not garbage that's fucking from, how many years ago was that? 20
years ago.
Right, you know what I mean?
And
ago. It still brings emotion just like that. Like 0 to 10, you're fucking pissed off. I don't blame you. I'm just telling you it can be different. You can forgive her, not for her, for you, right? So that you're at peace with that. Okay, so let me ask you: was your dad present in any of this? Like, your parents got divorced when you were 10, and was he around? Or
so here's the deal. I don't ever like to say my dad was a deadbeat dad. He wasn't at all. Like, I could have lived at his house if I wanted to. I didn't. I wanted to kind of. You
wanted to run the streets when your mom. I understand. I was a teenager too.
So I wanted to run the streets there, and I mean, he would just try to come to my mom's house and find me and fight me and shit like that. Like I've gotten high-speed chases running from my dad with my friends. Like it was like that kind of.
You were running amok.
And him and my brother were always like really tight. Me and my dad weren't. Like, and it's so crazy to this day. Like, my brother lives in almost $1 million house with my dad's, pays him $1,500 a month rent. My dad don't fucking lift a finger for me. Like I had to buy all my own shit out here. Like, I'm not joking. I bought my first custom house because I couldn't even get approved to rent an apartment. And my dad wouldn't fucking help me out. But it helps my brother out. And my whole life growing up, it was like I had to be the one to wake up early and mow the lawn and do yard work, and my brother never fucking did. And I remember, it's so crazy to bring this up. You can see it still haunts me.
Yeah,
I'm like,
of course, you're still very resentful.
Because now that I see that the treatment is so still unfair, and I'm like, why was it different my whole life? I never even realized that. So I would tell my dad for years, he's too young to work the lawn. I'm like, Dad, I've been mowing the lawn for 5 years. Right. Like, what are you even talking about at this point? He'd get to wake up at noon, come out there and chill. And by that time, I'm beat, ready to fight my dad. The fact that I'm having to do yard work all weekend, And then now it's the same treatment. And anytime I bring it up, what do you think it is? I'm the bad guy. Stop comparing this and all that. And they make me feel like I'm like the victim. They gaslight me. Thank God for my wife and my new family, because it's been me against them 10 years since I've been out of prison, where it should have been like a celebration. You know what I'm saying? Instead, it's been me fighting with my family and them trying to justify how fucked up they are. And I'm the only one that, to be honest, I'm the only one that's done work on myself. I'm the only one that's gone to therapy. I got sober. I wouldn't say I fix all my shit, but I fix everything that I can as of now, and I'm in the process of fixing whatever I possibly can.
And as it surfaces, you could go, okay,
I'll probably still be doing this. I'm 50 years old.
Yeah, it's like let me get curious about that. That's a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
Being willing to fix your shit, being willing to dive into things, it literally is a lifelong journey, because I have a whole fucking mountain of shit that I carry around behind me, and I don't even know. It's the same thing what you're talking about of, I didn't remember this, I didn't remember that. But as you start releasing things, more stuff will come up. And it's important to just feel the emotion that you should have felt when that thing happened, because what ended up happening is you're just pushing shit down, right? It's fine, everything's fine. Like, this whole thing happens in high school. I will tell you that I have an 18-year-old boy, and he's my world, right? What happened to you is not a unique story. This happened all the time. This happens a lot. This is a whole thing. You were still a child, right? You were vilified and fucking completely shunned from everything, right? You're still a little boy. Like, my 18-year-old son is still a boy, right? Like, his heart is soft. I want to fucking love on him, right?
Too.
Exactly, right? And no one fucking protected you. No one came in and protected the 15-year-old Peter that should have been fucking protected, right? Someone should have done that, because it wasn't something that you did out of malice. Could it have been a mistake? Sure, of course, right? But
you couldn't even do a mistake.
Right?
She wanted it. We did it.
Exactly.
She wanted it.
Exactly. Like, it could have been.
She begged me to do more. Like,
could have been
literally
any of those things, right? But looking at that, it's like, no one protected Peter in that situation, right? That's terrible. So you have to do the work now to be able to go back and heal that 15-year-old boy, because you don't want this to be something that then you hand that down to your boys, because you have unresolved resentments and hard feelings and you know, everything that goes underneath that. And it's the same thing. Like, I'm not picking on you for sure, but I'm just telling you what I see. The resentment towards your family and stuff. Again, resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. You're the only one that suffers in that situation. So being able to really release those resentments about, like, my dad or my mom or whoever treated my brother differently. Okay, yeah, they did. You're right, that's fucked up. And then what happened? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because if you carry that around, that piss and vinegar and anger, I believe that that's the shit that causes cancer, that causes disease, that causes fucking problems in your life with your health and all of the things, right? You're not able to, like, really focus on being the best version of Peter that you can be now, because of all of the bullshit that you're dragging around. So getting curious about that. I mean, you're on a great path for that. Being willing to do that. Those are huge, huge steps, because those things, yes, that's part of your story, but it shouldn't, like, consume you when you're talking about it. And I don't blame you. Like, I went through that for a long time of, like, fuck, that was really fucked up that things happened to me like that. And then you look at it and it's like, everybody has a fucked up story. Do you know what I mean?
Like
yeah, exactly, right? Everybody has a fucked up story.
You got it bad, someone else got it 10 times worse.
It totally is, right? So being grateful and really appreciating what the universe brought to your front door that you got to learn from, you know? Okay, so let's get back on track. So you, high school, got no more high school. Now we're just drugs, stealing, fucking running the streets. You rob somebody's house, get arrested for it, and that's what you ended up going to prison for?
Yeah, then it was like I said, my old best friend. We're at my mom's house, and so it's funny how it turns. So you remember, it was high school parties, drinking and stuff. Now it turns into, we're in my bedroom, door locked, doing meth. Just got a room full of all the shit that we're going over that we're stealing every day. That's like my room. I didn't have a bed in there. I just tools. It was like, you couldn't believe it. And the fact that my mom let me do this is just baffling to me. And I don't even mean to bash on my mom, but
no,
like,
she did the best
now
she
that I
could.
have kids, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but she was just doing the best that she could.
For
So
sure.
when you realize,
and I love my mom.
Yeah,
like,
when you realize that, like, they weren't handed any tools either. Like, even the shit that we're doing, you know, I've said this before. Like, our parents didn't even have the fucking internet, so they didn't even have, like, can I go look something up, or what am I doing wrong, or how to parent.
They just knew what their alcoholic parents told them.
Absolutely, they just the trauma that they got, they're just
and
passing
every single
it down.
Both sides of my things are alcoholics. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not set up for success in that situation, but it definitely isn't anyone doing anything out of malice. Your parents were literally just doing the best that they could. Yeah, you know.
So we're at this in my room now, and my brother's friends come over, and they tell me that they had just robbed the Nelson's house. And just so you know, the kids they're the most spoiled, rotten, rich family in all of Ahwatukee. Like a 15,000 square foot house with their name on the basketball court. Like, my friend, they get whatever car they want brand new for their first cars when they're 15 after they get their permits. My friend got a brand new Escalade, like still had the stickers on it, and bitched that it wasn't custom. So when he goes and gets a custom paint job, like 15-year-old kids, like those kind of kids, right?
Got it.
So my brother and his friends, they come back and they had just burglarized the house. And I was like, where are they? They're like, they're in Hawaii for a week. We're like, no way. And like, the house is open. They're like, yeah. So we go back to the house. Keep in mind, it's already burglarized by 5 kids. Me and my friends go back to the house now. I don't even make it out of the garage. I'm tweaked out. I took a drill, a snowboard, some Jordan basketball shorts, and Jordan sandals. That was my thing. I'd always steal shit that, like, my mom couldn't buy or I couldn't afford to buy. So I
Right.
wanted Jordan stuff, you know.
Right.
And I stole all that. And while that happened, I'm in the garage. I remember my friends come running down. They're like, we got the jewelry, let's go. And we get to my house and they pull out a freaking bag of jewelry. Like Patek Philippe watches. Like it ended up being like, I think $300,000 worth of jewelry. And it was so big, like, I don't even know where to sell this shit. Like, my drug dealer can't even buy this shit. You know,
Right.
like, we were doing shit to get $100, $200 a night. You know what I'm saying? Like, I saw some, like, what the, what do we even do with this shit, you know?
Yeah.
And we had it for a day and a half. Cops come just pretty much kicking down my door the next day. Of course, every kid and their mother talks. And out of your 10 friends, every single person told them it was all me, except one of my friends who didn't say anything. And keep in mind, these kids all went first, and then they tell the cops it's all me and put it on me. And I'm the easy fall guy, and so it's really believable too.
There's no honor among thieves.
So I ended up going to jail there at 18 years old, and I sat in jail for almost 2 years straight fighting this case because they were trying to just hang me on a burglary charge. And I ended up getting, as I know, the worst burglary in Arizona's history. I got sentenced to 12 years for a non-dangerous burglary charge at 18 years old, and I served almost the full 12 years. I didn't get out until a month after I turned 30 years old.
Wow.
And I was 6 foot, 144 pounds. I got locked up. Didn't even have facial hair. I didn't even have to shave my face until I was like 4 or 5 years into my sentence. I was like I just had armpit hair. I was like a little pretty boy kid with long blonde hair. Imagine hitting those big yards like that.
No, I can't.
And then they ask you where you're from, and you're like, I'm from Ahwatukee.
Right.
You know what they say next? You from all white Tukey? We never seen nobody here from all white Tukey.
Yeah.
And luckily I used to box. So that's what built my story in there. There it's all about how badass you are, kind of. And then when you're running yards, it's like you got to be an entrepreneur too, because you got to make money on the yards too. It's not just about being a badass dude. And the dude running the yard or running the building tried doing some little heart check, tried to punk me stuff, and I beat the living shit out of this dude. And that next day, sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. I remember the first time I hit a prison yard, right? Like, I was a popular kid. Even when I got in drugs, I was like, in this crew, I was the dude still. Like, I was always popular. Everybody knew me. And like, I remember walking that first prison yard, and I walked back from chow that night, and I looked around, and I was like, the first time in my life, I'm like, I'm literally nobody. Like, I could walk off and no one even notice I'm here. And I remember thinking, I love attention, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm finally like open about it, and I don't know, but I remember thinking, how the hell am I gonna do 12 years alone like this, And then I fight that dude, and then the next day, all the OGs come out and like, hey, youngster, they want to shake my hand and say hi to me, And I'm like, this is it, And now the dude running the yard wants to talk to me because I just beat up the dude running my building, and he's like 240 pound, been down 10 years. I'm 160 pounds, like been down literally 2 weeks. And they asked me if I want to like start putting in work and start politicking and stuff. And at this point, I don't even know what putting in work is.
Right, you're like, sure.
Yeah, they're like,
where do I feel
smashing,
most
snitching,
safe?
section. I was like, absolutely, sign me up, whatever.
Yeah.
And I just, gave up on God, gave up on everything, and just tried to I always had to overcompensate too, because I was from Ahwatukee. So like, even the regular dudes that would do like go to smash somebody, like I always felt like I had to do it 10 times harder because like I'm from Ahwatukee and I'm like a little scrawny ass model pretty boy kid, So I for years I had to always overcompensate. And then by the time I was 23, luckily I hit puberty finally in prison, and I'm 240 pounds now, and I'm running my first 4-yard, and I'm in a relationship with a corrections officer in there. I pull up the cop on the yard and the lieutenant. And I don't say this because it was cool, but like just to show how screwed up an individual I was. Like, we're drinking promethazine with syrup on a 4-yard in prison with corrections officers, smoking blunts, shooting heroin, like with cops right there. Like, and that was a 4-yard, which is supposed to be like lockdown, security, closed custody movement. And then I got hemmed up for that relationship with that cop, and that's when they sent me to maximum security for my first time. And you know what's crazy is like, when I went to maximum security, it's Century. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about it, but it's like, you can Google it. In the 70s and early 80s, it was the most dangerous prison in the United States of America. It's 5x7 cells, like Shawshank Redemption type shit. Mm-hmm. So you hear about it, and it's like, but then I'm in the hole waiting to go there, and instead of being like, oh shit, I'm going there now, I'm like, hell yeah, like I can't wait to go there. Now I get to meet some even more gangster dudes, and you know what I strive for in prison? Instead of doing positive shit, I remember when sometimes you'll talk to cops and they'll say, hey, so-and-so's hitting the yard today. And if it's like a dude with a name like me at the end of my sentence, the cops are like, yo, Olson's in the yard today. You better watch out, And I remember saying that about my buddy Craig Olson. I was like, I can't fucking wait till cops talk about me like that when I hit a yard. They're like, they're scared Meyerhoff's coming to the yard. So that's what I strive for in there. Instead of doing anything positive, all I did was did drugs, shot heroin, got introduced to needles for the first time in my life. But I do that, of course, never did needles before, but we both do it for our first time together. And then what do you do after that? You use dirty needles if you have to. It's like, the shittiest of shittiest lives you could ever possibly imagine, you know, and I didn't care about anything, and all I did was hurt people in politics for years, you know. And then the last 11 months, you know, I've spent in solitary confinement under investigation for attempted murder. Didn't know if I was going to go home or not. And I remember the SSU cops in there, and the SSU is like the gang detectives in there. I was in solitary, and I remember telling them, like, you can't expect me to do 12 years in prison and a year in solitary and get out and, like, function on the streets. Like, you guys got to let me out of here.
Right.
And verbatim, he told me, Meyerhoff, we're done with you in here. They're like, we're going to let the streets have their luck with you. Like, you're going to sit in the cell until you go home. Like, we are absolutely done with you in here. So I got kicked out of prison and sent to the streets to reoffend or do whatever. They didn't care, didn't give me a plan or anything. I was the only person. I got walked in 5-point shackles all the way to my release cage. And then I go from that to, bam, freedom. And it's like 0 tools on how to do anything. I've done nothing about work on recovery. I don't even know anything except, like, I'm angry as shit, but I know one thing. My dad was always angry, so I had that in the back of my head. I'm entitled to be angry. My dad raised me. My dad's angry, so of course I'm going to be angry. And I didn't know until recently that I can fix that, you know? So, like, I'm just this angry shot caller, and I get out of prison, like, honestly, angry shit, have no idea, and scared to death, but just so happy to be free finally.
Do you know what's crazy is in our generations, right? I mean, we're not that far off. In our generations, and your dad and before him, we didn't raise our men to be able to understand their emotions. And so no matter what it is that men feel, you turn it into rage and anger. That's it, right? So if you're afraid, it's rage and anger. Like, I'm listening to you tell your story, and it makes me hurt for the young Peter, right? Because you're a hurt, broken boy, and all you're trying to do is fucking, like, live, right? And, like, no one's on your side in that situation, and then you have to be the strong one.
I want to play sports. Like, that's my biggest thing. I never got to play high school sports.
Absolutely. Like that day.
I don't think I'll ever get over that.
I understand why you're angry at that gal. I totally get it, right? Because that changed the course of your entire life, right? The course of your entire fucking life. But no one was there to fucking defend you and to take care of you. And then you're in this situation with grown-ass men who are real big offenders at fucked up stuff, right? And all you have to do is literally just be angry and try to be as hard as you possibly can as a protection mechanism to something that you shouldn't have been, on that path in the first place. Or you should have, right? Depending on how you look at things. Because, again, I think everything happens for a reason. But, wow, that's a big burden to carry.
Yeah. And then what's crazy is, I remember when I got out, and right before I got out, right before I actually went to the hole for that, when we did that stuff, one of my friends, and he was like an OG in there, I was trying to get, when you run the yard, the cops will let you get away with a lot of stuff, you know, because they want to go home safely, especially those high security yards where I did all my time. I've never touched a minimum yard. I've never been in anything like that. I did 12 years straight in Supermax or 4 yards, like slam down. And I was trying to tell the cop that I needed to pass something or whatever one time, and he wouldn't let me. And I'm like, cop, not let me pass it. So what do I do then? You fucking punk, like, just watch how my people treat you on the yard. And I just light this cop up, you know, and go back to my bunk. And I'm like, and then watch, the next cop's going to pass for me anyways, you know. And I go back there, and I go back to my little cell right there, and my boy's like, damn, chap. He's like, I'm worried about you, bro. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, you're angry, bro. He's like, you cannot get out that angry. He's like, seriously, chap. He's like, you're going home here. He's like, you cannot get out that angry. And instead of thinking like, damn, maybe he's right, maybe I should work on this anger or something like that, my thought was, I finally fit in with these guys. Yeah.
Oh, God. That hurts my soul for you.
Yep. And then I went straight to the hole and got out after that with no, like I said, no tools or anything, you know. And then I get out I went in as a kid, so I've never worked. I've never been on a date. I've never been to a bar. I've never done anything.
God, what does that look like? I mean,
I'll tell you what it looks like.
Yeah.
You spend every day at Sandbar when you get out of prison. Yeah. And I'm not joking. Go home with a different chick every day.
Yeah.
And that's all I did. And then, you know, you get in a bar fight when you're blacked out drunk. And then that was my thing. I just wanted to drink and pull chicks. I never, like,
yeah, no,
I'm 30 years old and I had sex, I think, 7 times in my entire life, like literally. And so that's like all I wanted to do. And then I didn't do drugs, but like the problem with me is if I was blacked out drunk and there was drugs in front of me, I'm going to do drugs. So that was my fentanyl overdose story. I was drinking at a bar right in Chandler at Hobnob for a buddy's birthday on a Friday afternoon, on parole, 9 months out of prison. And the last thing I remember was doing a shot of Rumplemans.
God, you have terrible taste in liquor.
That's all my buddies drank. That's what they all drank.
I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
I think they liked the strongest shit that was the cheapest or something. You know?
God.
But anyway, so the last thing I did remember was a shot of Rumplemans. I don't even know how to drink. Like I don't even know what drinks are.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So we do this, and I wake up in an ambulance. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Literally, I had no clue. I tell the paramedic, what the hell am I doing in here? And he's like, you overdosed. I remember telling him, I was like, I don't even use drugs anymore. He's like, you did today. And I'm like, I couldn't even remember what happened. I was like, what the fuck did I do? And then I'm like, I just remember parts of the ambulance ride. All I remember is, what I do remember is laying there wishing I was just dead. Why couldn't I have just ended my life today? You know, if I'm out and I'm still doing this shit, I'm done with life. Like, fuck this. I don't want to live anymore. And then I'm mad, like, why couldn't I have just died? Like, why did I have to survive this, you know? And then next thing you know, I remember hearing my little brother in the hallway. And he's on the phone with my dad, who's Mr. AA. My dad's like, it's the biggest hypocrite on earth, you know? He's sober 27 years, but the angriest dude on earth. You can't tell him shit, just like bitter as hell, like one of those guys, right? So my brother, I remember hearing him, he's on the phone with my dad, who lives in South Dakota, and I yelled at him, I'm like, what are you calling dad for? Keep in mind, I'm a 31-year-old prison shot caller, like yelling at my little brother for telling on my dad, you know, that I almost died today.
Right.
And he's like, do you know what happened? I was like, I don't know anything that happened. He's like, they won't tell me. All I said is that I overdosed. The doctor comes in, said they found me with no heartbeat, full dead, got me back to life, resuscitated me, like gave me 7 shots of Narcan. By the time they got me to the hospital, my heart was only beating 6 beats a minute. But this is the part of the story that made me realize God was going to change my life. Like literally, I found God in that hospital bed. My ex-girlfriend's sister is the one that found me. And she went home after work to go tanning. She said she pulled up to the tanning salon, parked her car, got out just like normal, walked up to the tanning salon door. She said right when she put her hand on the door, a light went off in her head and told her to go home. She takes her hand off the door handle, gets right back in the car and drives home to take a nap and finds me dead in the bathtub. Calls the paramedics. To this day, I don't know how I didn't have a heartbeat that long, whatever. They resuscitated me, bring me back to life. What does my boy do? Like, and this was my prison youngster. I had to go back to my phone to find out what I did, right? And this is what I'm so open about, because you can get caught up so quick. Like you could be crushing life for years out here and then have one slip up and throw it all away in the fucking blink of an eye, which is why I'm so passionate about this. Clearly, I was at the bar drunk and got a Facebook message from Messenger from my prison youngster who lives in Guadalupe and tells me to come get high. He has dope. I drive my truck, blacked out drunk, never drove drunk in my life before. And then what does he do when I fall out? Because I did the shot and just went back because they found me upside down in the bathtub. And I was 260 pounds, so she couldn't even move me. So like she had to just wait there and she said I was blue and soaking wet. And what does my little youngster do though? Instead of calling paramedics, he just takes the money in my wallet and leaves me to die.
Great friends.
That's what most people's friends are.
Yeah.
I mean, when the time comes to it, that's what most of your friends are going to do to you anyways. You know what I'm saying? You just don't think it, you know? And most people's friends are just friends because it's convenient for them, or it makes them like, I realize a lot of my friends are friends because they hated their lives and they like to go drink together. So like they'll have these things that they align together just to make themselves feel like they're good friends, but they're not. And that dude's not going to do shit for you. He's not going to help you when it comes time to it. You go to prison, he's not going to visit your rights. You're none of that stuff, you know? So I'm sorry, I just lost track of thought where I was at.
You're totally fine. I'm gonna jump ship on the next thing anyway. So this event makes you realize, you know, we're meeting God. We're reacquainted now, right?
Yes.
So tell me what that looks like going forward from that point.
So from that point, and I could show you a video after this, but I go out to my dad's place in South Dakota, and I'm gonna literally at this point I've finally thrown in the towel. I was like, okay, I can't drink anymore. I got that figured out of my system. I got all the women out of my system. And even then, I remember I was sitting at the bar one day and I told my brother, I'm like, yo, this is all you guys do every weekend? Like, and I'm the one going home with the hottest chicks. They're not. And I'm like, I'm even over this shit. You know,
right,
I'm like,
yeah.
I'm serious. I'm like, you guys have been doing this for 12 years. Like, this isn't old to you.
Pretty basic baby bitch shit.
Yeah, seriously. So I'm like, I was already like looking for the next thing. So then when this happened, I was like, all right, maybe it's time to quit drinking and get sober and try and figure this shit out. You know, I'm going to go try and get a construction job or sell cars or something. Luckily, I didn't sell cars. So, and this is what I rebuilt my entire life from. I went out to South Dakota to go try and get sober from that overdose to my dad's. I stayed with him for a couple weeks, went to meetings every day, and I came back out here when I had like 30 days sober. And luckily, my co-defendant, he was the finance director at a big car dealership in Scottsdale. So he'd gotten in with me to go at least talk to the gym, and he said that he'd hire me possibly. And, you know, I'm 31 years old, never had worked a day in my life. And you know what's crazy now? Like, I rebuilt my life. My dad, what he did is he bought me 5 pairs of khakis and 5 dress shirts from Kohl's, all like buy one, get one free, or buy one, get one 50% off. And I had to pay him back for those clothes on my first paycheck. And he sent me out to Arizona. I lived in my brother's, just an extra bedroom, at another house of his that my brother lived in. And I made $10 grand my first month ever working in my entire life. And I got that check, and I was like, I can't even tell you how many lights went off my head because like, it's so fun. It's like getting out of prison is the coolest thing in the world. But like, once that honeymoon phase wears over, it's like, what the fuck did I ask for? Like, I didn't ask for this. Like, I want to go back to prison. Like, I'm serious.
Yeah,
like,
no, I believe you. You don't know. You don't
and
have
you know
any
what
idea
the
how to
hardest
navigate
things,
it.
and I feel sad even saying this, but like, ever since I've had my sons, I've been like so fucking bipolar. Like, that's why I needed this today. I knew this was a sign I needed to come and do this today. Because like, I'm the happiest guy on earth. Like, I can't even tell you what my kids mean to me. And like, I'd take full pride. I am the best out on earth. Like, I do everything for those kids. I will never let them see anything bad. Like, and God, I just lost track of what I was saying again. So I told you I was going to be emotional today.
That's
but anyways,
okay.
here, I'm like, I always thought that my end goal was like, no matter how successful I got, and I had $1 million house, you know, like, and still always thought that in the end I would end up smoking myself or going back to prison on purpose. Mm-hmm. But this time I was going to pick a state like Alaska where it's cakewalk and go do time there and just give up on life. That was always my end goal. Mm-hmm. Or just make it to where I want and then just literally smoke myself in the end whenever it got too hard. And it's so sad because I'm like the happiest I've ever been. But now that I have kids and I know that killing myself is not an option, it terrifies me. And like, even I have one son, I'm killing, like, I do great. I'm a great dad, you know, and I had my second son, I'm like, I went out in the parking lot just for a walk, and I come back in, my mother was like, you okay? And I was like, damn, I got to grow the fuck up, like, fast, you know? And I'm just hard on myself, though, too, but because I know what's possible, you know, like, I know how much I've done in just this amount of time. Mm-hmm. And seeing you, like, gave me so much hope that, like, what's possible. I'm serious, like, just a couple of your little Instagram clips. And that's what's so crazy about life. Like, when I quit my job years ago, I wanted to be Instagram famous. I want to meet all these famous people. And every big person on Instagram, I know them personally. I have their cell phone numbers. I've been on Bradley's show, all these guys. Sure. They're all a bunch of scam artist losers. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I hope this comes out the right way, but this is the podcast that has the smallest following I've ever done. And I was 100 million times more excited to come here than I've ever been to do another show in my life. And what you realize that all those guys that have the big podcast, they're all bought fake followers and they're all sharing some bullshit fake message, and none of them are good people in their lives. And they have podcasts, but they're cheating on their wives when they get done with all that stuff. And I just won't associate with that stuff anymore. So like, you're just like really inspiring me. Like watching a couple of those clips and just like, I'm just like real authentic people. And like one thing I told myself in prison is the shittiest thing besides for just being away in there forever, because you just get used to it, you know? Right. But it's the fact that you have to be around scumbags 24/7. So that's what I told myself when I was like, I am not going to associate with bad people. Like, if I have a choice to who I'm going to be around, and that's why I'm so selective. Even my family, like, I am so hard. I cut all my family members off. Like, I don't have a single Meyerhoff that can text or call me right now. I'm not on social media, not on my cell phone, not on anything. And you know what's crazy is my dad has a big family of 6 brothers and 2 sisters. Mm-hmm. Every one of them's alcoholics. None of their kids made shit of any of themselves except for my one family with Sally, the All-American Duke. Yep. The other daughter was a Rhodes Scholarship nominee, an All-American at St. John's, and the other kid raced dirt bikes and was just a stud at that, right? You know why? He married a good wife. Yeah.
It's all about the women.
And our whole life, I'm serious, listen, and I didn't realize this until recently, our whole lives, my Meyerhoff family made me hate her, literally. Because she was a guy, and we hated Cindy, and Cindy was trash, and she wasn't like the Meyerhoffs, and she wouldn't drink like them, and I grew up hating my Aunt Cindy. Right. And even up until a couple years ago, because when she split, she went back to Geyer. She got rid of the Meyerhoff name. Her daughter and son changed their names back from Meyerhoffs. And when I finally had this realization like a year or two ago, I was like, holy shit, my Aunt Cindy had it right the whole time.
Why don't you have a relationship with your family? Is it because of all the prison stuff, or just them not being supportive? Or
them not being supportive. Like, my dad will come to town. I'm not joking. Like, I bought a big-ass house. Like, I had $1 million house, like a 5-bedroom, 3,500 square feet with an RV garage by myself. I bought the house because my dad's, retired now. He said he was going to come and spend a lot more time down here. And it was 4 blocks from my little brother's house. So I'm like, side streets away. He has kids. I was always seeing his kids. And then I buy that house. My dad comes to town. Don't even come over. He'll be in town for a week, and like he'll come over. He'll text me one day like to get lunch at my house. Just spends all day with my brother.
I think you get to a place in families that, when there's not any, and don't take this the wrong way because this isn't. Yeah. This is just in general. Emotional intelligence in families is such a newer thing, right? For most people, that it's just so fucking toxic, right? Because you have so much hurt and anger and resentment. Your dad fuels off of anger based on kind of what you said. He's not, you have to like really go out of your way to try to work on that and change that. And so no one has any emotional intelligence, and it's literally just like powder kegs in a family. It's a wonder everybody doesn't kill each other. It's a reason why a lot of people do say, I want nothing to do with my family, because you can't even get to that point. It takes a lot of work to be able to repair that damage. And
it's true, they vilify you when you try to get out of it too. You know, like they all look at me like I'm the, instead of being happy for their nephew that, you know, made something themselves after 12 years in prison, like they would, I would wake up in the morning and I'd get shit talked to me from Facebook messages in the middle of the night. You know what I'm saying?
But here's the whole thing. I want to offer you a different perspective. You are the villain in their story. Do you know what I mean? Think about that for a second. Think about your parents who are just trying to do the best that they can with the limited that they have, right? And then you're doing what you're dealing with. I'm assuming you weren't going home and saying, I'm really struggling today. This is really hurting me as a human being, right? You're protecting yourself and coming from this place of misbehaving, getting in, okay, I'm going to be the baddest motherfucker, like all of that stuff. What does that look like to somebody on the other side? So I encourage you to look from the other perspective, not for any other reason, because you don't have to ever talk to your family again, and I don't disagree with that either. But what I'm saying is, when you look at it from the other side of like, what did that look like for them? Especially now that you have kids. Can you imagine if something happened to one of your sons that did exactly what your story looked like, but he didn't talk to you about it, right? He didn't tell you about it, and now he's just out doing stuff, and you're left at this place of like, how do I even help this kid? Do you see what I'm saying? Having kids is so powerful because it literally helps put up a mirror of like, what did that look like for my parents, right? Yeah. Your mom's doing the only thing that she knows how, which is going and being a flight attendant and trying to do the best thing. And she comes home at the end of her week or her day or whatever, and all she wants to do is be able to like relax for a minute and catch a beat, and it's thrown right into whatever tornado you've created. She
comes home to find out what I stole or what the cops already at the house. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's like when you look at all of that anger, which in families, there's plenty of anger to go around because everyone has their perspective, but they're all justified in how they feel about you just as you are in how you feel about them. That's why if there's ever anything that's going to work, it has to be people being willing to just set the weapons down and say, that was our story. I'm not going to, you know what I mean? I'm going to set down the resentment. I'm not going to carry this anger forward, which is a really hard thing to do. But it's like, you don't want to raise your sons to come from a place of anger. You want them to have emotional intelligence, and you can't teach that unless you have that.
Yeah.
Tell me what emotional intelligence means to you. I'm curious.
I was going to ask you that because I don't even know. Like, seriously.
Oh, Peter, you and I are going to get along really well.
That's the next thing I was literally just going to ask you. I would say emotional intelligence would be like just understanding like people's thoughts and feelings. Maybe.
Not even people's, yours.
Okay.
Yes, you can understand other people's too, but it's like, again, we raised our boys in previous generations that don't cry, that you don't be a pussy, like all of that kind of stuff. So boys are being raised to turn any emotion that they feel into anger or rage, right? So that's learned behavior, that's how you're taught, that's how it is. Unlearning that or reprogramming yourself to say, how does that make me feel, right? You being curious about yourself is a huge component of that, of like, okay, how does that make me feel, and what am I going to do with that, right? How am I going to communicate? That makes you a better husband. It makes you a better father. It makes you a better friend. To really be in tune with your emotions, it sucks because we were not raised that way, right? I was raised where emotions were very messy, and I didn't want anything to do with them. Vulnerability to me was the biggest fucking weakness ever. It's not a weakness. It's actually my superpower now, but I didn't realize that until I was in my 40s. Yeah. You know, so it was like, just push stuff down. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I drank. You know, we all numb in different ways. My numb of choice was alcohol. And so it was just keep pushing shit down. I didn't have to remember anything. I didn't have to address anything. I just kept pushing shit down. But what you realize is, yes, you're numbing all of the bad feelings and the shit that hurts, but in doing so, you don't get to enjoy the highs either, right? So the emotional intelligence component of that will help you like navigate where you can figure things out and go, yeah, I'm going to feel some of this shit that really felt bad, right? Starting with the fucking thing that happened when you were 15 and all of the fucking horrible, I'm guessing that you probably felt abandoned in that moment because no one took your side. Yeah. Like, and imagine your son, right? Again, that's the beautiful thing about having kids. Imagine him ever in his life feeling abandoned or not protected by you. Can you even fucking imagine? That will bring me to my knees every single time. Just thinking about it, right? But that's what happened to you. Right? So thinking about all of that and unpacking and then feeling the emotions of that and understanding that, that's the processing things. That's where journaling or talking to somebody else about that. And it doesn't even have to be a therapist, right? I mean, you and I are having a great time right now, you know, but talking about that and saying like, yeah, that really felt horrible. I felt abandoned. I felt, you know, this and that. Or what did it feel like when you went to prison? Yeah, you act hard, right? Here's a little fucking boy that's
I would
in a
act hard, and then I would literally have my head under my sheets crying.
and exactly, and I don't blame you. That's a totally normal reaction, right? But being able to really feel that for yourself after the fact and then release it so that you're not carrying around the anger and the resentment that goes with it. So emotional intelligence, to me, I get very curious about that. Take that away from our time today and really get curious about, okay, how does that make me feel? Or what does that bring up? Because then you're raising your kids that way, right? Sure. You know, I got sober when my youngest was 9 years old, and I was driving him in and out to school in Flagstaff, where we were in the car together for an hour a day. So when I was learning things about boundaries or about myself or about resentment or about all of these different things, we were just talking about it. Well, the good news is I have an 18-year-old who is the most emotionally intelligent man I've ever met. He's an excellent fucking communicator.
Is that the young one?
Yeah, excellent communicator. And I look at him and I've never been more proud. That would not have been the case had I not gone through what I did, right? So being able to teach your boys as they're growing up to feel their feelings, to express their stuff. That doesn't mean anybody's a pussy or a fucking crybaby or any of that shit. That's somebody that's in touch with who they are. That's powerful shit, right? So you going through that and you taking the steps to be better for yourself is just better for them, right? We talk about, I would do anything for my kids. I would encourage you to get real curious about that in yourself of, how does that make me feel? What do I need to release for this? Because I don't want to carry this shit around, right? We don't realize we carry all this stuff around, and in doing so, it's literally like a wrecking ball that you're dragging behind you, and you don't even fucking
Someone
realize
just made this analysis too. It's like all that stuff that you think you're pushing aside or coping with or you're drinking or something like that, you push inside, and that's why my anger's so bad, because I have all this shit inside me, so anything that sets me off kilter, it's ready to pop, just like that, which is why he was like trying to convince me to do like some more severe treatments like ayahuasca or like ketamine or something like that to get all that stuff out, which is probably what I want to do next. But yeah.
No, doing all of that, and then also just being brave enough to look yourself in the mirror and say, how did that make me feel? Why does that feel like that? Is that really in my best interest? Is that something I want to pass down to my kids? Yeah. Right? Because
even talking to a therapist, because it gives me a second point of view. Like all I've known is what Meyerhoff told me or what people in prison told me, and neither of those are what works out
Would
here.
you realize these are all toxic, relationships
100%.
and toxic people that don't have it figured out. So we don't ask advice for people that aren't in places that we actually are going or want to go.
That's why I say to my family, they try to give me advice. I'm like, none of you guys have a healthy relationship or do anything that I don't want one part of your life. Why would I take advice from you?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Well, it's smart. You've got the fundamentals figured out, right? So then it's just figuring out, okay, where am I going to figure all of that out? What are the other modalities to heal the younger version of Peter? Because there's a lot of fucking trauma that comes from all of the things that you've already talked about. That's the other part of it. I think so many people are like, no, it's fine. I was talking with someone and they're like, no, I don't have any trauma. That's totally fine. I'm like,
I'm over it.
I'm like, your dad fucking OD'd on heroin at Christmas when you were a child. You don't think that's fucking trauma? I mean, there's like, you can just go back and talk to people about their stories. It's like, put your kid in that situation, right? So if you think I'm tough, I was fine at 10 or 7 or 15 or like whatever the age is, put your little fucking kid in that situation and realize how young they are, right? And then go, would you want them dealing with that? You can look at your 2 sons who are young, they're babies, days old, one of them. You can look at them right now and think, I would never want that for them to have to put up and go through the shit that I went through. Right? It makes you sick to your stomach to even think about. I do the same thing. I look at my girls. I look at my daughters and think, some of the shit that happened to me when I was 13, 14, 15, the stuff that I was doing, whatever. And I was doing the same thing you were, where I'm tough, I can handle this. I don't even need to. We just keep pouring alcohol and drugs and sex and shit on top of it, and I'm the fucking, blah, 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 blah. I look at that for my daughters, and I think, I am mortified at the idea of them having to fucking navigate that on their own. And they went through hard stuff too, right? Like, I didn't do everything perfect. I was too busy numbing myself because I didn't want to look myself in the fucking mirror. Yeah. Which now I look at it now and I think, thank God I woke up. Thank God something happened where I was like, holy shit. Because now I find myself on this path of, okay, I've done 8 years of the ayahuascas and the fucking, all of the different healing modalities. Yeah, I've done all of the things, right? I've read all of the books. And I know that this is a lifelong commitment that I've made to it. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I've got some tips and tricks and tools and shit that I've learned from all of that I can share with other people, right? Which is why I have the podcast, because the universe fucking hit me upside the head. I call the God, God universe, or the big guy, or whatever you can call him. But universe hit me upside the head and said, you got to share that with other people, right?
I was going to ask how, because Tyler had told me where you come from, and I was like even more fascinated. I was like, you're fucking joking.
Yeah, no, seriously. It was like, now you're doing a fucking podcast. And I'm not the person who's ever been big on Instagram, big on anything. I've always been very private with my life. I don't want everyone to know my business. And now I'd liken this podcast to showing everybody the inside of my asshole. Because I fucking say all the things, and I fucking am not shy about.
And this. Hold back.
I don't hold back. This is my story. I've got a lot of shit in there that I would have been previously ashamed of, but shame has
It's
no
great
business.
because people will look at you or like, I would have looked at you before, like, this chick has it all. Like, she's never struggled like me. So there's no fucking chance, you know? And not even joking, like, I wouldn't even listen to a word that came in and out of your mouth, which is why my stuff works so well when I'm dealing with inmates in prison, because, like, you can't say I haven't walked your shoes. I walked that and something, you know what I'm saying? I ran the yard you're walking right now, you know? And I'm telling you, that shit's whack, you know? So that's impressive,
Yeah, no, but it's interesting because it's like when you surrender to the universe, when you get to this place where you're doing the work and you're saying like, okay, I want to be the best version of me that I possibly can for my kids, for my family, for my all of the things. And you're going down, you just get in tune with whatever you're supposed to be doing. When the universe tells you whatever it is that you're doing, right? You're writing the book, you're doing things that are helpful for other people. You just got to go. So when it tells you like, you're going to use your story to fucking help other people, right? Because I realize that when I share stuff with people, when I lead with vulnerability, it has an impact with people where they go, okay, it's not so scary to fucking say the scary thing, right? It's not so scary to say, I fucking got accused of raping somebody and this is what maybe it felt like or it didn't feel like. I don't feel like that's how this was or whatever. Fucking let's have the conversation. Thank you for being brave enough to come on here and fucking say that, right? Because none of this needs to be shameful, right? You were also just a kid in that situation, right? Whose life literally got fucking turned upside down over something, right? So let's have those conversations. Let's talk about that. That to me is the powerful stuff where you have people that are listening that go, okay, right? Because it isn't the pieces of our story that really tear us up. It's the shame associated with them. It's, I don't say that word. I'm not going to admit to that. I'm not going to say that that's what happened. That's just part of Peter's story. Yeah. All of the things that you're telling me, those are just part of Peter's story, right? What do you do now to like give back to other people or try to make an impact with people? Or like what fuels your fire right now for what you do?
My biggest thing has just been working with people that are either recovery or prison, in or out right now. Like I do a ton of stuff in prisons now. So I actually developed my own curriculum now that I teach and sell in prisons.
Nice.
Just to switch their mindset and get out of all the politics and shit. And like, I mean, look where I am now. If I would have done even half my time like reading or getting an education, or even just having positive thoughts of making plans of what to do out there, like I did nothing at all. Like I literally had not one clue in the world of what I was gonna do, and they just let me out. I was like that, and I'm like, holy shit, I better figure this shit out now. So it's like my biggest passion is doing that. So another thing, I'm the only guy in Arizona. Like a lot of those people I was telling her before, like they'll go to like minimum security yards and they'll do like these little classes and stuff. Like I'm the only guy that can go to maximum security and 4 yards out here. I'm doing the first one ever in California at Soledad, April 16th. 150 inmates in the gymnasium, and these inmates are the dudes. Like they're me. Like shot callers out of the shoe. Like the real deal that no one's ever had 150 of these guys in a room together at the same time. And they're gonna let me do a whole entire workshop with them. He bought a copy of my book for every inmate there. He's ordering them pizza, and I'm gonna eat prison food at lunch with them.
Love
and
it.
I'm gonna like literally just write plans for all these guys, because like they don't even tell you what you can do out here, you know. And if your mind's going with like, that's my biggest thing when I tell them, instead of like thinking like I just got to get out but I don't know what I'm gonna do, instead of like have your wheels going like I can't wait to attack the streets, you know. Like I have 24 hours a day and I can do literally whatever I want, you know. And like people don't care about degrees and shit out here no more, really. Like I'm not joking. Like college and school, that doesn't mean shit. If you can talk and get an interview, all you have to do is like, and here's one thing I say is life is sales, right? So like all you gotta do is get that interview and sell yourself to that guy, and then you got the gig right there. Just like me, like anytime I was on a 4 and I needed to get my door open, I was having to sell the cop on whatever idea I had to, whatever excuse I had to make sure that my door got open to go pass drugs or whatever the hell I need to do. And that's what life is out here now. And it's like, find what you're passionate about. You know, like I know I'm good at sales and working with people. I love talking and stuff. So I just want to make plans for all these guys. And to be honest, over the next few years, I want to be the biggest prison speaker. And I just want to just change millions and millions of lives, especially through my podcast. And I mean, I get DMs every single day. I got one 2 days ago from my son's mom. He's sitting in Pelican Bay doing a life sentence. And Pelican Bay is like Supermax in California, you know, and he's listening to every single one of my podcasts, you know, and she's like, it's keeping him through the day. And it's like, how the fuck did I do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously. And it's like, I was kicked out of prison by the cops. And now, like, the cops are listening to my shit. And I got cops that blow me up on social media that hurt.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
they're
trying to hang out with me now, you know, now they're asking me to go speak at parole. And I speak to cops now. Like, they have me training deputies that are going to go become corrections officers, know how to deal with inmates like me and stuff like that. And it's like, you can do anything you want in this world as long as you go get it and just go try and don't take no for an answer. You know, like if you don't know something, figure it out. You got Google and you got a phone. Like when people realize the small, simple, basic stuff, they can go so far in the world. I want to give one more example real quick. This is the kind of stuff that's so powerful to me. So when I quit my job, I didn't know what I was going to do, right? I just one day, I was making $300,000 a year out of prison, like got the $1 million house, driving a brand new 7 Series, like sober, 4 or 5 years sober now. I got it all, you know? And I remember thinking, fuck, there's no way this is all that I'm supposed to do the rest of my life, But like, I'm making so much money, I'm blind to it. Like, I never thought I was gonna make that kind of money. I'm freaking taking screenshots of my direct deposits every month. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like making more money than my dad ever made, and he was the only successful Meyerhoff.
Yeah.
And one day I just was like, I'm done. I'm gonna quit here and just go try and figure something out myself. I had my house. I had like over $500,000 equity, so my plan was to sell my house. I was gonna rent an apartment up at the Optima, do the single life for a while, and figure my shit out. And but I knew I just wanted to help people, so I was like, I quit my job. I had no idea what I was gonna do, but that's when I wrote the book, launched the podcast. I did the Vice TV show. So I was a teenage felon. The Shot Caller season 2, episode 5 is my episode, and I just did all that, and then I had a family, and everything changed. That's what's so crazy. Like, I always say, like, I'm a master at pivoting, and that's what I tell people all the time. Like, it's such a good characteristic to have and be good at, because like I was going to be the optimist single. She hates that I tell people this story, but my wife now, it's a God thing. We got pregnant the day we met. Like, it was like the craziest one-night stand that worked out perfectly you'll ever have in your life. And it wasn't a one-night stand. Like, we hooked up from the bar. Like, we were both sober. Like, but she came over to the house, and like, I told myself, like, no matter what, do not even try and have sex with this chick the first night. It happened, and literally, I'm not joking. 0.2 seconds later, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she was gonna take a plan B after that, but forgot to, and that's why we had Quincy. And it just worked out perfectly. And then she was just out of college, never been in a serious relationship, never cooked a meal for a guy, never did. And that's why we get along so well now. She's an alpha female. And it's so crazy. She can't believe, like, because my ex before her was a stripper, of course.
Oh, Jesus. Now we're getting into a whole thing.
I'm going to get into the good stuff right here, seriously, because my ex, like, her was a stripper before that, and the one before that was a bartender, and it's like, and I cheated on both, and it's like, and she would ask me, because she still dealt with my ex for years afterwards, like, just imagine a crazy stripper seeing me move on and be happy, and she could not get over it. And
this is a whole nother podcast that we're getting
into.
Oh,
seriously. And she asked me, she's like, why the hell would you be with a chick like that? And I told her I would have never in my life tried to even date a chick like you before.
Yeah.
And she's like, why? And I'm like, you're too perfect for me. Like, I'm fucked up. That's
Right.
literally what I told her. She's like, how could you think that? I'm like, look at me. Like, I'm fucked up. Like, I've never in my life. I would have tried to just hook up with you, and that's it. Never in my life tried to date you. And you know why? All that shit that I'm talking about now, how I'm feeling bipolar, I got to grow up real fast, because the shit that I did with the other women does not fly with my chick now.
Well, and not only that, but you need to be setting an example for your boys of like
both of those.
What's the right thing? You get to rewrite stuff. So
all that, and like I said, she wouldn't put up like the other women. I told myself, and this was full on, like, you're lucky to be with me. This is how I am, and that would last about a half hour with Jasmine right now,
Right.
And so that's what it is. So that's why I go to therapy now, and I like really try to work on stuff, and I've always been angry, and it's like, she don't like that shit,
No,
so it's like,
well, good.
And I have flashbacks of my dad now when I lose my temper, and I got my kid right there, so it's like, it makes me so sad, and I cry now, and I'm like,
you got to fix that. Fix your shit.
That's what I really work on. No, seriously, that's why your podcast
that's your gal's name, Jasmine?
Jasmine, yeah.
Love it. Shout out to Jasmine, smart gal.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to wrap it up because we're over time now. But
it usually happens when I'm on a show.
I know. That's all right. We ended with Jasmine, which is the important part.
Sure.
So, yeah, smart girl telling you to fix your shit. So, anyways, that's our time for today. So thank you for joining us.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. If you have questions, suggestions, or you think you'd like to come get naked with me as a guest, please send us an email. Our email address is ladies@letsgetnakedpodcast.com. Please do all the things to support the pod by following, sharing, rating, and reviewing. And we'll catch you next time. That's
Leave
a
a
wrap.
review. If you're a good friend, leave a review. Seriously.
Thank you. That's a wrap.
I'd love to help you get vulnerable. Let's get naked.